Hello everyone. Now today I will be featuring something that, well, I didn't see myself playing even a month ago, but it's a game that has been taking up a lot of my free time as of late, and that is of course World of Warplanes 2.0. Now I highlight 2.0 because the game before this has apparently been quite a bit of a disaster. I didn't play the previous World of Warplanes, but I did see some YouTube vids, and I did of course hear of it, and it was honestly more of a meme than an actual game because it was so terrible. There was like aim assists, lead aim assists in front of planes to see where you should be shooting, and it just looked like a complete mess. And I'm happy to say though that 2.0 is actually not a mess. It's in fact extremely addicting, and it's a lot of fun. Now, if you're looking for some sort of flight sim, some sort of very realistic simulator, then this game is certainly not going to be for you. But in terms of arcade fun, World of Warplanes is actually pretty goddamn amazingly fun to play, and insanely addicting in fact. Now, while at first glance the amount of stuff going on in the UI can be quite overwhelming, once you start to familiarize yourself with what's going on, it's actually pretty straightforward. In fact, if you played a lot of World of Warships like I have, then it's pretty straightforward. Your consumables, well, in service is basically your consumables and your ammo. There is gold ammo, but I've been using the one that you buy with credits, and I think it's perfectly fine. I've had absolutely no issues carrying. There's of course consumables you can buy both for silver and for gold. As far as I can see, mostly the gold does the stuff automatically, whereas the stuff you pay for with silver, you have to press the button, so it's not really that big of a difference, considering it even tells you, like if your engine breaks, it tells you your engine is broken, and it even highlights the hotkey, so even a trained monkey could actually figure out how to use this. So I'm not really seeing too much of an actual gold advantage going on, which is of course something I like. Upgrades is the same World of Warship style. You go from stock, you upgrade the hull, you upgrade the engine, guns, so forth, and then you got equipment, which is basically your upgrades from World of Warships, where you can select a bunch of different stuff that you can slot into each section. Some you can demount and put on other planes without paying, some requires the balloons to demount, so pretty similar in that sense. You got your, of course, captain with your captain skills, and overall, anyone who has played World of Warships has a pretty easy time figuring out most of this stuff, because it looks a bit weird, but once you get used to it, it's pretty much the same. You got your camos, and of course a nice little bonuses. You can slot your own custom emblems. In this case I'm slotting my Finnish flag, and well, if you want you can also slot some memes, like for example, let's say we don't like our Mr. Schmidt to have a Finnish flag, we can slot an Israeli flag. I bet that would have gone over just fine during World War II. But in terms of design, like nothing has, it's very familiar, very easy to do. The tech trees are of course goddamn massive, because this game has been out for a long time and there has been a lot of stuff added to it, and for someone who's just starting the game now, it's pretty amazing to see just how much variety there is to choose from, so that is of course pretty damn cool. But while it does a lot of things correct, there's a couple of things it does in fact do a lot better than World of Warships, and those are a couple of things I would love for World of Warships to actually copy from this game, because there are some definitive lessons to be learned here. Now, before I move on, there is something I want to highlight, and that is the visuals in this game. You can see my left wing, it's been shot. You can see straight through it. There's smoke clouds billowing out of the broken wing. Like the scenery, it looks like a paradise, but then when we see to our right, we see the anti-air opening up on one of my teammates. I wish they'd copied those anti-air effects to World of Warships. Come on guys, you got the assets right here, please use them. But in terms of immersion, like both visual and audio immersion, this game scores very high in my book. It's very enjoyable to just sit back and just watch the action unfold around you. There's bombers, my friendly bombers in the sky that you see them blinking, it's telling me that I should defend them. I'm under AA fire, a warning pops up, but you can also see the explosions all around me wrecking my plane. I have to actively dodge the incoming anti-air. There's enemies, both bots and human players, all around. This, for example, is a Japanese fighter that I'm jumping right basically above me. and stall warning. Like there's a lot of action, but the game conveys the action extremely well. It's very immersive in the way that it does it, and it's very easy to lose yourself in the game, I would say. In fact, when I was streaming this game, I found myself often not even talking to my viewers because I was so into just enjoying it, just playing my plane, running around, wrecking people, hunting people down, and that always gets big thumbs up in my book. The fact that it makes me, I lose myself in the game as I play it. And overall it does lend itself to some very cinematic experiences. You see AA shooting him, I blow him up, his exploding corpse basically flies my way. I see this Japanese plane near the water surface, I jump him from above, and the shells that miss, you can see the water spouts in the ocean beneath him. It's very, very enjoyable and very cinematic, so that does get some big thumbs up for me, because not many games manage to do this. The game itself also does a very good job of conveying information. Because, well, when I started this game, I knew nothing. I had no experience in World of Warplanes. I started with my low-tier biplane, single prop, whatever. And there's these very clear circles on the minimap, and the game even tells you, go capture them. And there's these white bot planes that protect the airfield, or whatever it is you're capturing, and your job is to shoot them down. Very simple, very straightforward. This is how you capture objectives. In fact, you get a lot of medals and rewards. This game very freely gives out a lot of banners and rewards and medals and stuff like this for things done correctly. And this is smart. If someone plays the game correctly, they should be rewarded. This is a good way of teaching players what to do and what not to do. If my aim isn't hitting, I need to lead more. There's no need for a lead indicator of any kind, as the game apparently had in the past. In fact, right now, if you're not hitting, you aim a bit more in front, and it's very intuitive. There's this very distinct hit sound, and there's this very distinct effect of your shells hitting the planes, so it's easy to find out how much you need to lead to land the shells. So even at low tiers, it does a very good job of conveying what it wants the player to do. Even better than this is that they reward planes for fulfilling their roles. For example, here I'm playing a attack aircraft, and you can see I have these personal aircraft type missions. I need to destroy enemy ground targets, I need to help capture objectives, and I need to help capture sectors. So it tells me already from the get-go that if I go in there and I bomb the targets and I strike the enemy ground targets, I will get additional XP and additional rewards. And this is a very good way of teaching players exactly what they need to do to play their class to the fullest. If I'm playing fighters, it tells me that I need to shoot down planes and I need to defend my areas. If I'm playing multi-roles, it gives me XP for both targeting ground and shooting down enemy planes. It's intuitive and it's very intelligent. You reward players for playing the class the correct way. And the more you do the correct kind of like mission, the better rewards you get. And I have to wonder, why doesn't World of Warships do this very same thing? Why don't you have, for example, on battleships? Why don't battleships have individual missions where it says receive tank damage, and let's say for every 500k damage tanked you get like a notch or an achievement showing everyone that you're doing your job. Same way you could have DDs, spotting damage. The more spotting damage you get, the more rewards you get. You can see sectors captured, that one showed up on my personal mission down there. It shows me that I've been doing my job. And like cruisers shoot down planes, radar people, and they get rewards. This would be so... They already have a great mechanic here in play. Why doesn't World of Warships copy this? It's such a great idea, and it should absolutely be implemented in World of Warships, in my opinion. As for the early tiers, well, matchmaking in this game is protected +1, meaning you can only ever end up against someone one tier higher than you. And that's, in my opinion, great, because I rarely, if ever, felt like completely underpowered, like I had no possibility of having any impact on the game. This game, for example, I'm playing at tier 3, and I'm against mostly tier 4 opponents here, and I really had no bigger issues carrying this for my team. Whereas doing the same thing in World of Warships, especially if you end up +2, can be extremely difficult. Now, no doubt the differences are larger the higher tier you go, the differences between tiers are larger, but I rarely felt completely powerless, and +1 matchmaking is something I'll definitely give a big thumbs up for, because I greatly appreciate protected matchmaking. Now, What I do have a bit of an issue with, which I think is a bit stupid, is that tier 3 game that just ended. Well, you can see tier 4, a lot of tier 4 opponents, and of course a couple of bots at the bottom. If they're very like simple names like Graham or Philip, then it's probably a bot, because in this game they don't let you sit in the matchmaking queue long at all. Like, I think the most you ever sit is like a minute max, and then they throw you into a battle regardless of what tier. So my issue isn't actually with the bots, my issue is the amount of XP you get. You saw that I earned 5.2k XP, and this one game of 5.2 XP bumped me from having 0 XP on my plane, because I just researched some modules, into being able to research the tier 4 and fully upgrade my tier 3. So you skip past tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 in like a handful of games. You end up at tier 4 with probably an hour of gameplay. And I think that's a bit too fast. I don't see any point in like having the players. It's not like it's a bad grind. Like, what the hell? There is no need to skip the players past this so quickly, because you kind of miss out on a lot of learning. And I think it's a bit of a waste of all the effort gone into modeling and designing the low tiers. Now at low tiers, the game is very one-dimensional in terms of combat, in terms of dogfighting, because, well, all the planes are quite similar still, just like in World of Warships. But once you start getting some levels, some tiers, it starts getting interesting. Here's an example, the American multi-role fighter, tier 5, and this one, the special thing about this one is the insane DPM on the guns, with almost no overheating ever. In fact, if you get your lead correctly, you can hear the impact sounds, and the amount of DPM you can pump out on this thing is extremely impressive, and it's extremely satisfying when you get the perfect lead on someone and you just melt them as they try to fly around past you. Multi-role fighters, their role is kind of like drop bombs on enemy targets, but usually defend your own airfields or own objectives, and you can see just how quickly these enemy players are pretty much exploding, and it's very satisfying. You got like something like 6 guns, and you can see my overheat gauge on the left. It barely moves, even though I hold down mouse 1 for absolutely ages. There's also the attack aircraft that start very simple, but then later on they get added. You get rockets and you get bombs, and the amount of impact you can have in helping shoot down anti-air and in general just disrupt enemy bases and capture them from your teammates. Basically, the more damage you do to enemy structures and areas, the more in your favor the cap turns. So if you do a ton of damage, well, of course you can see the capture bar moves heavily in your favor. And these of course get stronger and stronger and stronger, and more specific, more unique, the higher tier you get. Now, all this heavy armament is of course not limited to only striking ground target, as I found out the hard way and later learned myself. If someone tries to ram you or tries to play chicken with you, you can just nail them with a rocket instead, which is extremely satisfying. Or if you're just lining up a attack run and you're striking enemy structures anti-air, for example like in here, and you happen to see an enemy bomber, you line up behind them, you still have a couple rockets left, and you happen to nail the perfect rocket. It is some of the most satisfying kills in the game, especially since it gives you a special reward called Rocketeer every time you do it, so it makes it all the more sweet. I have in fact already found a favorite plane, well, favorite plane type, and that is any plane that has these big caliber guns. Now this, for example, it's the Yak 7 I think, or Yak 5 I'm flying right now, and the overall machine gun damage is extremely underwhelming. But you have this huge high caliber 37mm gun, and you see that chunk that Spitfire just lost there? That was that big gun, and every time it fires it has a distinctive sound. It overheats very quickly, it has a very low fire rate, but it does insane burst damage, and that's kind of how guns scale in this. The smaller caliber they are, the longer it takes them to overheat and the more sustained damage they do, and then the bigger they are, the quicker they overheat, and basically the lower their rate of fire. But the burst damage from these big guns has been probably one of the most enjoyable things for me in this game so far. I've just loved sniping people. You saw that he ate the 37mm gun and then I rammed him, so I got a ramming attack kill on him. So this plane and this kind of playstyle has just somehow it just fit me absolutely perfectly, and I've been enjoying it tons. In fact, it's with these kinds of planes I've been having my most enjoyable moments in this game. Like, for example, here I got a broken engine, I'm surrounded by opponents, I'm next to an enemy base, I'm completely screwed. I got what, 60, 70 health, like a quarter of health left. I'm almost guaranteed dead, but I still have one ace in the hole, and that's pretty good accuracy and 37mm cannon. Someone incoming from the left, blap, the gun takes out the first guy. This guy tries to bank in, and blap, the big cannon takes him out as well. And what seemed hopeless becomes an amazing sequence instead. In fact, I've been using these big guns to take out big threats. Like holding tab, we can see this Creeps guy. He's the top scorer on the enemy team. He seems to be doing a lot of work. Wait, isn't that him on the left? Yep, looks like the same guy. Creeps on the left. So, he's faster than me, he's more agile than me, but I've been shooting Khabarovsks in World of Warships. I know all about leading my guns, boys. So, we zoom in and blap! 37mm cannon completely annihilates him. And that is... it's just so damn fun. Like, landing those perfect shots is probably one of the most enjoyable things in this game so far for me. I love high caliber guns in this game. It's some of the most satisfying shots to land by far. Now I could probably wax on about highlight clips about blapping people with the big guns all day because I find it so enjoyable, but let's move on to the actual game itself and my final verdict on it. There are things that need work, client stability. The UI sometimes, the port sometimes locks up if you change planes too quickly in the hangar. It doesn't seem to happen to everyone, but I was one of the unfortunate who had it happen to me. And the game does crash sometimes. Luckily, the client starts extremely quickly, so it's like it's a couple of seconds nuisance, maybe 20-30 seconds annoyance. But I need to mention all parts, not just the positive sides. The gameplay, however, is extremely fun. If you like simulations or like very realistic flight sims, you probably won't enjoy this game too much. But if you're just looking for some fun, this game is extremely addicting and extremely fun to play. So I will give it a lot of props for that. The visuals are quite top-notch, in fact. I assume they have updated them because I've never heard of World of Warplanes having as good visuals as what I've been seeing. And overall, it's just been a pretty damn great experience. I mean, there's still some work to be done, like these daily missions. Some of these are like Wargaming EU levels of missions, like they're supposed to be dailies, but some of them are straight up impossible or absolutely ridiculously demanding, especially since you only get the rewards if you win the game. If you complete the mission but lose the game, then you don't get the completion, so it seems exceptionally nitpicky. Worst thing is, there's like a 24-hour lockdown to replace them, so if you get stuck with an unfortunate one or two of them, you can only replace one. Here, example, I have there's one of these that requires me to bomb some targets. I had to replace it, and then I'm stuck with another one that I'm gonna struggle doing, so there's a lot of fine-tuning going on, but ultimately this is apparently the first of 3 big upcoming patches for this game. And if this is the first one, and it already managed to improve this game so much, then I'm actually quite hyped for the upcoming patches, the 2 following patches, because right now this game is straight up very enjoyable. And if they manage to improve it even further, which is obviously their goal, then big thumbs up to Wargaming. They have basically taken a game that was a meme, complete garbage, a complete joke, and they made this something that I like playing when I'm not streaming, when I'm not recording for YouTube. Just a game that I want to play because I want to have some fun, I want to wreck some face, and that's when I start up this game. And these days, that's quite a rare thing to accomplish, so big thumbs up, and as of now, this game does get my recommendation. It's pretty goddamn fun.